TLC, one of the best-selling groups of all time. Yes, you've heard correctly, of all time. As of today, they sold well over 90 million records worldwide. Long after the days of no social media in the 90s, the group continues to perform as a duo at major venues. Their unique style, sound, and overall message as a girl group pushing women empowerment shot them straight to stardom in the early 90s. A tale of the rise to fame, a heartbreaking loss, and a miraculous recovery. This is a story of how three girls with nothing but a dream overcame adversities collectively and individually before becoming the superstars we know today. Now, a few weeks ago I did a poll on Instagram asking who the next documentary should be on, and the people have spoken, voting for TLC, getting the most votes. So without any further ado, I present to you TLC Meant to Be. On Throwback Central, it's your boy DraeSynes. Let's get it. T-Boz, real name Tionne Watkins, was born in Iowa on April 26, 1970 and moved to Atlanta, Georgia at the age of 9. Raised by a single mother, Gail Watkins, she knew she wanted to be a star, telling her mom that one day she'd see her on a billboard and magazines. She would hang out at Cascades, a popular skating ring hangout for teenagers where they would have dancing competitions, and while she was respected as a dancer by the popular guys, they wouldn't let her be part of the dancing group, probably due to her being a female. I mean, this is back in the days, so things were a little different back then. A few miles away was Chili, real name Rosanda Thomas, the only one out of the group that was actually from Georgia. She was also struggling. Her dad abandoned her before she was born, and she was raised by her mother, Ava Thomas, with the two obviously becoming very close. She would later meet her father for the first time in 1996, when Chili was 25. Even further away in Philly was Left Eye, real name Lisa Lopes, where she, along with her two siblings, were raised by their parents. Her mom and dad were together for 12 years before getting a divorce. However, it was a pretty stable environment for Lisa. That was until her dad would get abusive towards the mom. Her dad was an army sergeant that led a very strict household, as if it was a military camp. In Lisa's own words, he was a very dominant man, and he was also the man of the house. She was also under pressure to do very well in school. If she got anything less than a B, she would often be punished by not being allowed to go out or see any friends. Left Eye longed for the acceptance of her father. At age 20, after she had enough, she decided to move to Atlanta by herself with nothing but her keyboard and $750 to her name in hopes of getting a record deal.
Didn't know anybody in Atlanta. Was lucky to have about $750 to my name because I just shot a video. So I thought I was rich. $750 was gonna last me, don't worry about it. I got some money, I'm going to Atlanta. I was looking forward to this new adventure.
Lisa would meet fellow Future bandmate Tionne, who was friends with Crystal Jones, a singer that basically started the group, which was originally called Second Nature. The two were looking for a third member to join the group, and after witnessing Left Eye's freestyle on the street as people dropped change in a hat as they walked by, the two decided to make Lisa part of the group. Tionne and Lisa clicked almost immediately, becoming real close, so much so that Crystal began to feel left out. 5 months later, they landed an audition for R&B singer Pebbles, who was now looking to venture into the business side of the music industry by signing a girl group. After auditioning, Pebbles took the trio out to dinner and decided to sign them to a management agreement. Problem was, the deal gave Pebbles the sole right to negotiate with labels on the group's behalf. The contract also gave her ownership to all of their publishing and even the TLC name. The group also signed a contractual 8-album agreement to Pebbles. meaning that they wouldn't be able to leave or renegotiate the contract until they made 8 albums for her. That's a terrible deal. Like, on top of that, like, any labels that would be interested in signing the group would have to go through Pebbles and not the girls. She basically just owned them. For the next couple of months, Pebbles would have the girls rehearsing and practicing choreographies every single day. After feeling confident about the trio, Pebbles would secure an audition for the girls at LaFace Records, which was partially owned by her then husband, music executive L.A. Reid, with the other half being owned by legendary singer and producer Babyface. After the girls auditioned for L.A. Reid, he didn't hesitate to mention that he wasn't happy with Crystal's performance and singing voice, basically comparing it to a school kid's talent show. That's kinda rude, man. But yeah, he asked for her to be replaced if they were going to sign to the label, and just like that, Crystal was out of the group that she initially started. Wow, this business is tough, boy. So now the group consists of only T-Boz and Left Eye, but they wanted it to be a trio as they needed someone to fill the C in the TLC. They would end up replacing Crystal with Rosanda, who was a backup dancer for LaFace group Damien Dame. Impressed with her vocals and most importantly her dancing skills, they recruited her to be the C in the TLC, nicknaming her Chili, and the group was officially formed. The group was officially signed to LaFace in April of 1991 through Pebbletown Management, and shortly after the signing, TLC began working on their debut album, which would become Oooooooh on the TLC tip. But yeah, to handle production of the album, the trio worked with L.A. Reid, Babyface, Jermaine Dupri, and Dallas Austin, whom T-Boz already knew from her Cascade days at the skating ring. Dallas Austin would produce the group's first single, Ain't Too Proud to Beg, with a video and a song that basically advocated for safe sex and women being responsible. Great message. The single would be released in November of 1991 and was met with critical acclaim, with a lot of critics praising the uniqueness of the group's look and the positive message behind the song. At around that time, Chili and the album's producer Dallas Austin would fall in love, and Chili would end up pregnant with his baby at the age of 20. However, due to her career aspirations and outside pressures, she decided to abort the pregnancy, later stating that she regretted the decision. With Ain't Too Proud to Beg generating enough buzz, LaFace would release the group's debut album in February of 1992, debuting at number 105 on the US Billboard 200 and peaked at number 14 on the chart and number 3 on the top R&B and hip hop chart. As of today, the album has gone 6 times platinum. Following the album's release, it spawned 3 more singles, Baby Baby Baby, and Hat to the Back.
Every day that's big and not a place to go. It's not still hand me dressing like a fashion show, but not this week. I'm chilling cause there's nothing to hide.
The ladies were experiencing early success, but it wouldn't be a smooth ride. The girls would notice that their album was selling millions and getting a lot of radio play, but they were not seeing any money, so they had planned to confront their manager Pebbles about that. However, before they got a chance to do so, an incident would happen while the girls were on tour for the album. T-Boz would suffer a sickle cell anemia attack, an illness that she kept a secret from the whole group, a secret that they only discovered while they were on tour. The stress of touring had aggravated her illness, and one night she just burst out crying because she couldn't deal with the pain, the sharp pain that she was feeling throughout her body. She was feeling sharp pains all over and her face was discolored as well, and she would eventually collapse on the floor.
I've seen her be sick like that before, and we didn't even know what to do.
People have no idea what I've been through because I don't talk about it, because I never wanted nobody to feel sorry for me because I don't feel sorry for myself.
She was then taken to a hospital in Nebraska, which was the place where they were touring at the time. She stayed there for 2 weeks and the rest of the shows were cancelled as Chili and Left Eye decided to stay by her bedside at the hospital through the remainder of her recovery. That's a real sisterhood right there. After T-Boz would recover and eventually be released from hospital, the girls decided to proceed with their mission of confronting Pebbles about their contracts. After taking a meeting with her and complaining about how they're still broke after all the success they had, they told Pebbles that they didn't want to work with her anymore. While Pebbles was angered and disappointed by what she had been told, she agreed to not work as their manager anymore, and she decided to eventually let them out of their managerial contract. However, because of her deal with LaFace Records, she would still make money off of the girls' music for the next couple of years to come, but at that point, TLC were just happy with Pebbles being out of the picture. Sometime after the release of their debut album, the trio would begin to let loose a little bit and devote more time to their relationships. T-Boz continued an on and off relationship with Dalvin from the R&B group Jodeci. Chili continued an on and off relationship with Dallas Austin, and Left Eye would meet former NFL player Andre Rison while on a night out at a club. The two got along immediately, and after a few dates, she moved in with him at his mansion. Shortly after this, the girls began working on their second album, which would become Crazy, Sexy, Cool. The making of this album was a lot more difficult than the previous album. This is because T-Boz and Chili started to notice a different kind of vibe from Left Eye, a more reserved and less enthusiastic vibe stemming from a troubled relationship with Andre Rison, which according to Left Eye was full of domestic violence and toxic behaviour from both sides. The two were not compatible at all. He would often go out partying until 6 in the morning, and whenever he'd get home, they would get into arguments about that, which usually escalated to physical violence from both parties. One day, in order to get back at him, Left Eye would get drunk and throw his shoes in the bathtub, setting them on fire. Only problem was that the tub was made of fiberglass and quickly melted, thus causing the fire to spread around the whole mansion. With Lisa being unable to stop the fire, she would get in the car and flee the scene. By the time the firemen arrived, she was long gone. I swear bro, Left Eye was a crazy gal. She was just mental. She was a mad girl. Police would catch up to her 2 days later and charge her with first-degree arson. Considering what she did, I'd kinda say she got off lightly a little bit because she was put in a substance abuse program due to a drinking problem, which really got worse once her father passed away. She was also ordered to a 5 years probation and fined $10,000. For this reason, Left Eye wasn't able to have much input in the Crazy Sexy Cool album. She was only allowed to leave rehab for studio sessions when she had to record her verses, but that was it. She wasn't allowed to hang around the studio to get creative ideas as much as she did on the first album. It was always a short visit to the studio as she had to go back to rehab afterwards. On a rainy day, as Left Eye was making her way back to rehab, she got inspired by a beautiful rainbow in the sky, leading her to write the song Waterfalls, which would eventually become a hit. On Halloween of 1994, after the album was complete, the trio would go on to release the first single off the upcoming album, which was Creep. The song became a massive hit, and the album was released just 2 weeks after that on the 15th of November 1994. The girls would follow up with singles Red Light Special and an even bigger hit Waterfalls and Digging on You. All these singles helped the Crazy Sexy Cool album to become a monster project, as it sold 77,500 copies in its first week, going double platinum in 2 months, and even selling 15 million copies worldwide as of today. Whew, big numbers, man. It even went #1 in several countries. This album also showed their transitions from girls to women, in my opinion. Like the sound like was more mature. The sound and aesthetic of the album was way more, mature and more serious in comparison to Oooooooh on the TLC tip. Like even the artworks are so different. On Oooooooh on the TLC tip, the album cover is kind of playful and kiddie like, while on Crazy Sexy Cool the vibe is more moody and deeper. In the summer of 1995, TLC were nominated for 6 Grammys and won 2 for Best R&B Album and Best R&B Performance by a Group for Creep. So by 1995, they were literally on top of the world. Their single Waterfalls was a #1 hit, they were winning Grammys all over the place, they were even in the middle of a sold out world tour, and the labels were eating good out of this success. Except they weren't. So in June of 1995, the group shocked the world by filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Everyone was shocked, like no one could believe it, because how can you sell 10+ million records and win all of these awards and you're broke? You know, that just doesn't make any sense. Artists need to read and understand their contracts, because the music business, it's cutthroat, man. They will definitely take advantage of you if they see your weaknesses, so you just have to be careful. I love how Left Eye breaks down the deductibles in this clip right here.
Alright, this is how a group can sell 10 million records and be broke. And everyone, get ready to do your math. When we first started out, we were kind of cocky. Okay, there are 100 points on the album. TLC had 7. Every point is equal to 8 cents. Alright? 7 times 8, 56 cents. But as time went on, we learned a lot. That means every time an album gets sold, TLC gets 56 cents. So 10 million records, $5.6 million. Seems like a lot of money. Well, it's not a lot of money when the record company has spent $3 million to record your album. And in the record business, we pay all costs back to the record company. We pay recording costs, video costs. So now we have $2.6 million left. Well, guess what? When you have that much money, you're in about the 47, 48, 49% tax bracket. So that immediately gets deducted to $1.3 million. Then you split the rest 3 ways. You got about $300,000 a piece, if that much. Okay? $300,000. I can buy a nice house with that. And what am I going to pay my bills with?
At the 1996 Grammy Awards, the girls would further win more Grammys, and at the press conference, then came the famous "We're as broke can be" speech. By this point, the girls had enough, man. Like, they kept on winning awards, selling out shows, but they weren't seeing any money. They were brave. Like, they spoke up against the whole industry and spoke up for all the artists that got taken advantage of in the past and at that present moment.
We're not like trying to be a sad story. If that was the case, we would have been on everybody's talk show talking about how broke we are. We haven't done that. I know it's hard to believe because we've sold so many albums, but it is possible. That's the deal here. So, and we're not happy at all. But for real, tonight, this is all we wanted. We wanted to win a Grammy, at least one, and we won 2, and that proves that we are the jam.
But nah, these girls were broke, because even after the 50K they made, they were still in debt. Each of them owed like over $500,000 to Pebbles, fam. Yes, they were still dealing with Pebbletone management. Remember that contract they signed back in '91? Yeah, it still had them in the chokehold, because they were never able to truly get rid of Pebbles. They just fired her as a manager, but the contract was still active. She still made money off of them. That was until LaFace decided to buy out the contract for an undisclosed amount, effectively releasing all members from that devilish, ridiculous contract, thus making Pebbles drop her multi-million lawsuit against TLC. The girls were finally free. Even after their freedom, drama would continue to creep up in T-Boss's life. At some point in 1996, T-Boss would continue to face problems in their relationship with Dalvin. While T-Boss was in Atlanta and Dalvin was back in his hometown of Charlotte, North Carolina, Dalvin was staying at a hotel room that had an adjoining room with a girl whom he claimed was his cousin. But after that, Dalvin would pass out, drunk on the phone. The girl would pick up the phone, and T-Boss later realized that the girl wasn't his cousin, but was in fact his ex-girlfriend. T-Boss was so vexed, she booked the flight to North Carolina that same night, went to the hotel and beat up the girl, leaving her with a cracked jaw and a broken eye socket. Damn, T-Boss wasn't playing around. Funny enough, T-Boss would continue to be with Dalvin up until their split in 1998. After a break of nearly 5 years, TLC finally broke their silence with their third album, Fan Mail, released in February of 1999. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 and the top R&B and hip hop album chart, selling 318,000 copies in its first week, eventually being certified 6 times platinum. The album spawned 2 #1 hits, the smash hit No Scrubs and I'm Pretty.
She knows if he says so. You can buy all the makeup.
The girls were enjoying success once again. About a month after the release of the album, Left Eye stirred up some controversy when she admitted on a Vibe magazine interview that she, quote, couldn't stand 100% behind this TLC project, end quote. Also stating that this would be her last interview until she drops her solo album, which would eventually drop in 2001. The reason why Left Eye said this was because she felt that her creativity was being restricted by the labels when it came to TLC projects. And Left Eye was a really creative person who was ahead of her time. The whole futuristic aesthetic of the No Scrubs video was her idea. So was the concept of the song Waterfalls. Despite all the controversy, she still claimed to support the group and her friends Tionne and Chili. While on an international tour for the Fan Mail album, further friction would arise between the girls, as after a while, Left Eye wasn't as enthusiastic about the tour because she had her solo album in mind. She was more focused on working on a second solo album, which obviously aggravated the girls. They would get into arguments about this, and sometimes they wouldn't even speak to each other for like days. To be honest, I see where Chili and T-Boz were coming from, because Left Eye was low-key messing up all of their money by being unprofessional, turning up late to shows and interviews and just being disconnected from the group as a whole. And this was happening at the peak of their careers, like they've never been this successful before, and Left Eye was more into other things at that point. At around that time, despite still being friends, Left Eye would be drifting away from the girls, making fewer appearances with them and only appearing in for big shows like the Grammys in 2000. That year, the album Fan Mail was nominated for 8 Grammys, including Album of the Year. The girls walked away with 3 Grammys that night. Sheesh. In August of 2000, T-Boz would marry West Side Connection rapper Mac 10, and the two would welcome a daughter a few months later in October of that year. This would prove to be a miracle, as T-Boz had been told by doctors since she was a child that her chances of living past the age of 30 were slim and that she wouldn't be able to have any children in her lifetime. This God is good, praise God. One day in 2000, Left Eye missed yet another important press conference as she just didn't want to be bothered by the music industry at that point. She needed a break, so she just picked up and drove all the way to Central America with her then boyfriend Sean Newman. It was just the two of them and they just vanished without telling anyone. A nationwide search began as she was reported missing. After a couple of days, Left Eye would reappear and was hit with a lot of bad publicity because of her disappearance. The fans took it really hard and were calling her like irresponsible and all kinds of things. Following that, Left Eye would further withdraw from the public eye for the remainder of 2000. She was just low key.
And you know what? Fans, man, you took that kind of hard. You know they wouldn't take it that hard.
In 2001, T-Boz and Chili would ask Left Eye if she'd be willing to work on another album. Left Eye would eventually agree and they would begin working on the album that would become 3D. A few months into production of the album, T-Boz would fall sick once again due to her sickle cell and had to be taken to the hospital. While there, Lisa would send T-Boz plants and herbs to help her heal. With 80% of the album complete, Left Eye would travel to Honduras along with her sister Reina and members of the group Egypt, which was a group that Left Eye was creating. The girls traveled to a village in Honduras, which was a place where Left Eye would be visiting since 1998, to seek spiritual refuge with Dr. Sebi. She had become an avid Dr. Sebi follower and also followed his diet, and she also wanted to introduce her sister and the group Egypt to Dr. Sebi and his ways. The whole trip was documented as Left Eye wanted to share a spiritual journey, and during the trip, she would introduce the girls to Dr. Sebi's cleansing herbs, which did not taste good at all. But Dr. Sebi and Left Eye claimed that the herbs would assist with mental strength, and after a couple of sips, the girls would throw up. It was kind of funny.
Run them over, run them over.
Why don't we drink these outside?
Dr. Sebi,
We need a refill.
you owe me.
On April 25th, 2002, Left Eye and the girls would drive around Honduras in a rented SUV in La Ceiba, Honduras. Left Eye's final moments would be around the corner. While driving around, Left Eye overtook a truck in front of her and quickly swerved to the left to avoid an oncoming car from the opposite lane. While doing so, she would lose control of the vehicle, causing it to roll around several times. The accident threw Left Eye and the other girls out of the windows. Left Eye died instantly due to fracture to the base of the cranium and a head trauma. She was the only person to die from the accident. At age 30, Left Eye was sadly gone. T-Balls was still at the hospital recovering when she found out about Lisa's death through Chile. She was devastated.